Well, let's talk now to Daniel Lieberson, who's an American who's currently working in Mexico City, and he was there when the earthquake struck. Thanks for being with us, Daniel. Just tell us then, where were you exactly? What did you see? What did you feel when the earthquake struck?
Thank you very much. I was on the 26th floor of the Hilton Hotel, one of the higher buildings, and it moved a lot. You couldn't stand up. You had to go down on your knees or sit down. Glass came crashing down, chairs, people screaming. We had to go down 26 flights of stairs, but some of the pipes were broken. There was water in the stairwell. They were bringing a woman down in a wheelchair. It was pretty hectic. A lot of problems, and this happened 2 hours after we had a drill, because this marked, of course, the 32nd anniversary from the 1985 quake.
That's such a bizarre coincidence, isn't it? That a real earthquake should follow so quickly after a drill, an emergency drill to practice for an earthquake.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I do want to mention one other thing, that there's a lot of solidarity coming out. Here in the hotel, a group of us as guests, we got together and packing medicine and food, putting it into boxes, sending out to centers. So there is some good coming from this bad. And I think that's something that should be highlighted. And I think it's something that's really impressive from the Mexican people. They're out there digging up people. They're doing everything they can to help.
Yeah, we've seen some extraordinary rescue efforts, especially at that school in the south of Mexico, in fact, where a lot of children were killed. But just tell us, you were 26 floors up. You must have been terrified, weren't you? I mean, I guess the building was kind of swaying.
Yes, the building is it's put on pistons, and so it's supposed to move with the earthquake. It's a modern building here in Mexico, and it just rocked back and forth. It was impossible to do anything. You couldn't walk. You just had to wait and hope and pray that, nothing else would happen. It was very dramatic. I lived in Africa. I lived in Chile where there are earthquakes, but here, with the lake bed that everything's built, it really moves.
And were you confident in the sort of technology behind that building, knowing that it's designed to move with the earthquake? Were you confident it was going to stay in one piece and that you'd be okay?
Absolutely. That's where I always stay. I always stay at this Hilton because I know that it has the proper building codes, and I knew that this was my best chance, and it worked out.
But of course, a lot of buildings in Mexico City, we've seen pictures of them, have completely collapsed because they're not earthquake proof.
Yeah, the question is, are they not up to code, or is it that they've accumulated so many earthquakes over time? Because some of the buildings are 80, 100 years old. I think that's the question. Which is it?
And we've seen a lot of earthquakes in Mexico, one a couple of weeks ago, actually, that killed rather fewer people than this. And there was a huge one in 1985 that killed, I think, 10,000 people. Is this a country that is almost always thinking there could be another earthquake just around the corner?
I think so. I come to Mexico every month for the last 4 years, and talk about earthquakes. They accept it as part of life. But since the last big one was 32 years ago, people tend to think, well, it's not going to happen for another, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. We'll be okay. And they seem to be surprised when it does happen. I guess that's human nature.
All right, Daniel. Well, thank you so much for talking to us so vividly about your experience of what happened when that earthquake struck. That's Daniel Lieberson there, an American who's
Thank you very much.
Working in Mexico City. Thanks for being